brothers and rapping the 5'9", you know greater fucking color. My gas screaming killer, weather, hit 'em where they at. Smoking them like cemento, let the pistol up, it's Sprite. Never could be fucked with, my nigga that'll suck it. They calling me getting 7 sick, I switch up bitch like subjects. Full of continental, make a whole sentimental. Like I ATK dental, ballin' with no fundamentals. Michael Jackson off the thunder dose, holding from the killer dose. Creeping up in the rental, bam, Ember with the chemicals. Gripping on my genitals, northside genital. Pull up in the Benz, once you turn this off cynical. Anyway, think about the side-by any day. 5 past 5, holding up that Mary J. I drop 30 like a Kobe, you know NBA. How about Andy Murray with the stick and let it swing a play. Turn the black out, dipping out the crack house. Smacking up on these bitches till I hold the fuck from crack out. Knocking through a back out, backed through a back out. We're running the gun in the fucking out while tripping in the blackout. Man, it's the killer. Lord Sackarilla, mama dead, both fiends in my exo pill dealer. So we keep it realer, just no drug I ain't touch. Especially at your face and I bet see your place up. Boy, aim with your face up. These cops with no makeup. This me before warm-ups, I ain't even laced up. Oh boy, get your rank up. Robbing and dealing homicide, strike one. When a friend in ghetto, I was
really getting up in the gizzards, naked like a blizzard. Keeping an eye on these sticks in the grass, so I move just like a lizard. That would taste vanilla, poppin' painkiller. With the 45, I feel like the great gorilla. Cheeky heads talking, they think I'm a quesadilla. Picking up the pussy, I must be a lady killer. Yeah, pop a pine, break a spine, rap a clip like it's a vibe. Now she asking what's my sign, so I threw up the 5'9". I'm the Lord, up in Civil War, pick the lock on death's door. Kill on these deserters, cause these pussies red and sore. Never call the back, she breaking down like metalcore. Everybody's the muscles like they beat it with peppercorns. At the score, rip outside out the door in the floor, for the shore. Throw the bucket, they pull like the light is in a torch. You look like it might have lost the Second World War. Yup, Ruby's such an animal. 7 war dragon, when I breathe, it's fucking flammable. Keep my click tight and isolated like we cannibals. There's so many balls, you think infinity is tangible. All these fucking chains, you would think I'm wearing manacles. Yeah, bitch, tell me what's happening. It's so big, I'll turn the pussy to the Grand Canyon. All my haters pussy like I keep on smelling salmon. Keep it old school, I might pull up with a cannon. Yeah, bitch, tell me what it is. Wake up with a smile, picking out the right fit. OJ in the morning like a stabbed a white bitch. Every color in the fucking rainbow, suck my white dick.
Fuck up.
Yeah, blue suit, crushed see-through tooth was oriental. A teal tone lobster prepared for my arrival. With 2 steaks, 2 grapes on paper plates. Caused 2 blind dates when I showed my roly face. Diamond doctor, I showcase patience without waiting. I jump out the wraith and start skating. An ice skater, a figure skater. Figuratively speaking, they prepare for my impeachment. Mango seats with peach tint. My pajamas Gucci lint. That's not what I meant, I'm heaven sent. Sent from above with my diamond gloves. I'm Bo Jackson in taxis. Yeah, step outside, point at the sky. Blowing smoke out my lungs as wolves cry. The chance taker. I shook dice with Vinny Baker. I load the Desert Eagle faster than you can do your makeup. I'm past you Poindexter's. I'm fashionably late to late night studio session with Willie Nelson. But I can sing a hook like I'm Garth Brooks. Came a long way from dodging crooks at Forest Brook. Keep the balcony closed, they got binoculars. Keep my philosophy locked up with my hypothesis. Possibly, I can speak freely from the afterlife. Till then, charcoal trench coat with the apple sight. Chris cut, Jody high roller with the motor oil. Had to think twice, because I'm bipolar, chip on shoulder. It was made by Louis Vuitton.
Somewhere it's chilly, I don't hail from a place where you grow to be great. I'm the creep from the motherfucking first tab late. I never thought I'd live to see all these fucking dreams are unpaid to the whole fucking side.
See this shit, but hold up. Peter Yards and fuck, man. Gotta be a way to describe this shit, man. We'll figure this shit out. Real.
Gold teeth on my silver spoon, cross the face on the paint job. Country boy from the den of goons, white folk that you can't drive. Yeah, that's 14, sipping 4-0, suck St. High. Fifth grade with a switchblade, pentagrams on my plate box. Levi's from the thrift shop, Buster Browns on my feet. Fuck, daddy's back in no meal now. Clay stuck in my beats. What? Mama's all in that J.O.B. Flame tip to that Chiba Chiba. Seeds popping like Bama does. Me cousin these green Adidas. Grass stain from the walk home. Carpet pants full of M80s. Crust pills in my watch pocket. No dope to these kids. Daily geeked up. Tripped out. Tired-eyed. Brain fried. Mouthful. Lips out. Mushrooms. Sack dried. Backwards and I broke the dough. Got a half a on the hook of gold. Young girls in a web trap. Brainwashed like a vegetable. Take some of this blood soup. Can't focus, just me and you. Blood made with a 22. Witchcraft and the bitches brew. Yeah. Light switch. Hell nah. They done shut the motherfucking fire out. Ain't that a bitch? Fuck y'all. Gotta get my neighbor on to the fucking car. Light switch. Fuck y'all. I'ma grab a notepad. I'ma write it out. That's right, bitch. I'ma turn it on. Looking at this shit, it's like I took my gun like with a cowboy. Drinking down to the spit pad. Daddy ice in the floorboard. Role models can't get dead. My whole model is just laugh. Laugh it off and just get mad. Either way, I'm up on the roof. Looking for gold with no bricks at. Anarchy is in my jeans. Middle fingers and pipe bombs. That's how I stay entertained. ready to smoke. Gone 10-4 with a big pen, makes no smoke. Good smoke. Before the dams, I was packing resin with more than one way to use a coat. Skulls up with them crossbones, there's no face to viral soul. Pirates out in that deep south, roll pop feels like Pablo. Don't speak Spanish, they keep managed. Crime watching the pine cops in the black suit with a mag light, even dope boys in a pine box. Light switch, hell nah, they done shut the motherfucking fire out. Ain't that a bitch? Fuck y'all, gotta get my neighbor up just to make a call. Light switch, fuck y'all, I'ma grab a notepad, I'ma write it out. That's right, bitch, I'ma turn it on. Looking at this shit, it's like click to a trench coat in the hallway. That young man's got a no gun, but when Pop left with them safe keys, that age gap is a short jump. Babies all in a great sight, tears dropping at Jesus piece. Black clothes, Johnny Cash, compact style, and you leave in peace. White stripes, red stripes, white stars, blue night. That banner's up in that trailer park, them pigs flashing them blue lights. Psychological motherfucker, power tripping, they back you down. Don't you go with a steel cage, like a nigga grown man, that's a clown. Time treads on them gravel road, old schools with them rusty goods. Baby seats for the crystal meth, high risk but the money's good. Sherm sticks in the boss's hand, parliament's smoke by the case. Watching all of this in my land, till the butt nothing goes to waste. Trapping the nation's pit, oh how they just savor it. Woods dropping like flies, yeah they got a plan for you, just wait for it. That statue was a major bitch, but man I feel liberated. Took this shit like a dome beater, I had a bow, I innovated. Light switch, hell nah, they done shut the motherfucking fire out. Ain't that a bitch? Fuck y'all, gotta get my neighbor up just to make a call. Light switch, fuck y'all, I'ma grab a notepad, I'ma write it out. That's right, bitch, I'ma turn it on. Looking at this shit, it's like click to a light switch.
I been fucking niggas since the 5th grade. Really ain't no difference in that nigga gay.
Blood satellite.
Ah, shit, there's no turning back now.
We're here. This
How's
is
it
it,
going?
man.
You know, I was crossing my fingers, I was gritting my teeth. I hope that chat is fucking visible. If
I
we
can
just
see
had
it. Says this track comes.
that track
Thanks,
did
Anthony
come,
She-Man.
and I know what track he was talking about. It was the last one.
Yeah, it's a good one. A
Good.
little bit of what is it? Muse. I forgot.
Well,
the
yeah, he was sampling Muse.
sampling. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I know it's not Muse. I'm just saying. Yeah, I recognize the sample.
Speaking of which, let's give a test to see if the soundboard is working.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. Now, we got a lot to get through today. There's no shortage of content to talk about. But a couple things I wanted to get to first. One's very, very important, and one is just minorly important. And also, actually, the first is a question that was just brewing in my mind before we started, and I needed to get your weight on this because I'm going to forget it. And because you're a guy who knows a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what do you say to the woman who doesn't understand the power of pissing in a sink?
You can't explain it verbally. It's not a rational thing. It's like Jordan Peterson talks about how you need to have AI needs to have a body for it to humanize and become sentient and understand the world. It's like that. You can't understand the power of pissing in the sink unless you've had a penis.
I tell you what, I just rocked a piss in the sink, and boy, I feel alive.
I'm gonna tell your wife.
First of all, as if she doesn't know. Second, don't. For the love of God, don't. There's only so many times a woman that you're betrothed to can give you that look, the why look, and you know me, I've used up a lot of that shit.
Yeah.
Moving on. I think we covered that. We covered that important topic. That was actually the important one. The minorly important one was, and this is just based off of me plucking shit from the news. Before we get started, was something happening with 5G today?
Everybody was saying that, and as they were saying it, I checked my settings on my phone, and it said that I was now on a 5G network. I don't remember seeing that, but it certainly didn't notify me. Or maybe it's always been that way. I don't know. So,
Yeah. So let me just check this out here. So, what do we got? Marburg. See if I can get this going.
Bob, are you on a 5G network today? Go to your settings to networks.
Yeah,
So yours
so,
is 4? Mine says 5 now. Yeah.
so
No, not
this-
from where we are. There's no way there's 5G repeaters where we are. If you go to settings, sorry, it's Android, you guys. Go to connections and mobile networks, and then you can see.
So I'm looking at this. I was looking at it myself. I'm like, what the H is going on? So I'm coming up on BBC News, which in this, in the internet climate, reading BBC News feels like you should be on a private browser. You don't want people knowing you're on BBC
Yeah,
News.
yeah. I'm gonna have a screen polarizer for that.
Yeah. Marburg virus and other false rumors about today's emergency alert test. And then I see this bitch, which reminded me, first and foremost, Black people are a little too comfortable with red.
For real.
And I
We're
think
clear.
that's something we're
That's
not talking.
orange, by the way, but it's okay.
Okay, is this going to be like that fucking dress thing? It's okay. It's, you know what it is? It's sangria. Can we
Yeah,
agree on
it's sangria. Yeah.
That reminds me of a story one of our friends told us, and this is one of the stories that I think about way more than I should. He was working at the
blood?
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for fast forwarding the end, you fucking loser. But yeah, he was working at the LCBO, which is just
Yeah, I got you.
You got me? Okay, good. Yeah, something fucking happened to my speakers and when you unplug speakers. Okay. So the idea was, and keep an eye on the chat in case other people can't hear me for whatever reason. But yeah, he was working at the liquor store, Canada's liquor store, and it was a black man and his son came in and were looking at sangria, which is just like wine, like red wine and some mix you do, right?
Yeah.
And then he's buying, I forget how we get here, but apparently he's buying it, but he's also confused by it. And then he's like, sangria, what's that? And our friend explains to it, sangria, I thought that was chicken's blood. And it's just one of those glorious peaks. Like, I feel like a white man with a crew cut in the 60s. One of those guys who they just sent these guys into black neighborhoods with tape recorders. Like, what's going on in there?
Yeah.
And then you find out, well, everyone's just been molesting each other and they worship tornadoes, all kinds of stuff. And so that was just, you don't get afforded those, anthropological flashpoints anymore.
Mhm.
Anyway, her shirt. So
Yeah.
I just see her and I'm reading this. So what's going on with 5G? Test of the system. It's not a secret signal that triggered World War III. Methinks the lady doth much, frankly. And it didn't turn people who've received COVID vaccines into zombies. Well, you know why that is, because they started out as zombies. If you think what that's
Libguards owned.
Yeah, these libs, they got a disease activated when the 5G went live. It was full of baloney disease. I mean,
Nice.
in reality, TV and broadcasts were also briefly interrupted. Local tests of TV and blah, 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 blah. So they're trying to tell me nothing happened. They're trying to tell me World War III didn't start. Odd thing to say, suspicious thing to say. Like, if someone were to, just as a random example, pulled from thin air, if some guy was becoming estranged from his spouse and he hadn't been seen, she hadn't been seen in his house for a few days, and then the police were looking for her, and he went on social media and he said, the police are looking for my wife. She walked away. I drove her to a location in the middle of nowhere and dropped her off. and that there has been an electronic trace of her this entire time, proving that I could not possibly be guilty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just as a random example, that would be a needlessly suspicious thing to say.
And if you check in my garage, you will find my shovel is clean as well. Yeah.
Well, what else could you use instead of a shovel? Don't start listing things. I need that sequel to the book. And people not confused on what I'm talking about. I will not explore it.
It is in the comments.
All right, so we're just gonna take a break. We just wanted to horse around with this for a second. What we are talking about here is something I believe is of high importance. It's this. I think we were talking about this before. Have you heard about HateGate?
Yeah.
Hashtag HateGate.
Oh yeah.
Highly unfortunate name for a highly important thing. There should be more people talking about it. There's a lot of people in our scenes, in our sectors, discussing it. But it's something where there was a hashtag HateGate document that was released. And if you look for it online, you could find the website. I was alerted by you just a few moments ago that the website appears to be taken private. It's up, but it's been taken private. So the PDF that you could review all this very, very crucial information with, I don't know if you could access it. We have it though. So we're going to be going through it page by page, all the important stuff. So this might prove to be one of the few places you can find it right now, which is sad, but hopefully the site comes back up in the future.
Okay, just one more reason to get the YouTube banned again too.
Also, I was
information on the stream.
I was alerted, like I was just checking to make sure that the stream was going properly on Odyssey and YouTube. We're live on both. We're also live on Rumble. And the stream was banned for like a minute due to policy violations.
On Rumble?
Yeah.
Weird. Why?
I actually don't know. And for some reason, I don't think the chat overlay is loading properly either on the screen.
That's there.
Can you see it?
I can see it. I can see it.
Like not on the right side of your screen, but on the screen with our stuff on it. Can you see it? There's like a part that's black on the right. That's where it's supposed to be.
I mean, I can see the chat. Like I'm looking at our stream.
Okay.
I'm looking at it on YouTube as well. I have it up on YouTube. It looks
okay.
funny.
Well.
It actually looks funny on YouTube because on YouTube you can see the chat and also you can see the chat.
Okay, that's good. That's actually what I was hoping for. Okay. One other thing I forgot before we move forward into this extremely crucial information that everyone should know. On the platform that I use for the soundboard, all these fantastic sound effects, we also have voice modulators. And we've had some classic characters like Trans Dimes, Baby Dimes.
This one I like to call Mussolini Dimes. Let's see here.
But there's a selection of other ones. You could hear that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. They just introduced a new AI feature that will modulate your voice to sound like specific individuals, famous people. So, so we got Mark Zuckerberg. We have Elon Musk. We have Trump.
For both of those guys, their voices aren't distinctive. It's just the weird stuttering cadence of the way they speak. Like they're, you know what I mean? It's not like they have an accent or something.
Yeah, it's more uncertainty than it is a real cadence. But most importantly, we have Barack Obama.
Oh no!
Now I've tried this out before, and to me, it sounds absolutely terrible. It doesn't even work right. But I wanted to try because I've been listening. It's weird hearing your own voice, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna click it. Sometimes it takes a while to get going.
Turn on the background of that. How do I sound? I sound like Barack Obama.
No, you sound like a mid-40s Jew.
I don't sound like Barack Hussein Obama.
No, you sound like you work at a publishing house.
How about now? Do I sound like Barack Obama?
No. You sound like a last-minute guest on the Tonight Show.
I can turn on an old radio effect. What's that? Do you hear old radio effect now?
I can hear old radio effect.
Okay.
You're like a kid at Christmas. Your voice modulates.
Now, I'm wondering if in the chat we should we do a poll? Can we do polls whether we should keep this throughout? It just feels like there's so much you can do.
It's uncanny though, because it doesn't sound like Barack, but it doesn't sound anything like you. Like if you put this on the phone, I would not know it's you. It's really convincingly not you.
Yeah, I guess we can also do trans dimes.
Jesus.
Hey everybody, Trans Dimes is back. I know everyone missed Trans Dimes.
Trans dimes with emphysema.
Here's the worst part about Trans Dimes.
Thomas 777, is that you?
Here's the worst part about Trans Dimes. Your instinct is to actually feminize your own voice to heighten it, and I'm fighting that.
Yeah.
I don't want a tee-hee. I don't want to go up at the end of the sentence.
But it's forcing you to.
There's a lot of people who tuned in to actually hear some important shit. And then there's me. Hey, it's me. It's Trans Dimes. I'm also Barack Hussein Obama.
Nailed it.
It's kind of over. All right, so we're gonna get to the real. I'm just looking back to the chances. Oh no. Also, Minoan.
Somebody said Jordan JBP. It did actually sound more like JBP now that because it's like the frog voice, right? Like the modulated frog voice.
Look, because the types of guys they're going for are the ones who are kind of internety to begin with. Like the only people who really give a shit about Obama right now are like
right wingers,
or like fringe political people who still think it's funny that he was president. But like Peterson is in that milieu. Like he's like the people who do Elon Musk voice also do that voice. I mean, like then it's just a stone's throw away to like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Really, yeah, I think Obama was then. It's like, well, we can do a black guy, but it's not going to be like a black voice. Honestly, I'm surprised they got the trans one in there. Like I got like that one, which you think wouldn't even be allowed. I think maybe they do that for trans people instead of guys trying to make fun of trans people.
Well, what is it listed as in the app? Does it just say trans?
It says man to woman.
Man to woman. All right. I mean,
which actually is perhaps more insulting, like depending how you look at it. Yes. It would be more insulting if it was man as woman, actually. All right, so we're gonna stop horsing around. All right. Talking about HateGate. So HateGate, we're gonna be going through the PDF, all the pertinent points. There's a lot to go over here, and looking at the Canadian Anti-Hate Network as an organization. Now, there's also a trailer we're going to watch that kind of gives you a broader scope of what we're going to be talking about, which we're going to look at presently. In fact, maybe we'll do that right now. So, also, just to let people know, I am getting over a cold. If you hear me cough, if you hear me sipping, that's the reason. I'm just on the tail end of it, so it shouldn't be that bad. But let me just try one more thing before we get started, too. Again, I keep fucking pushing this back. Sorry, everyone. Just got to give a quick shout out, see if this works. All right. Subscribe to the Gumroad. There, that message is.
Do it.
Here's another one. See how this looks. Yeah. So you can subscribe to the Gumroad. We're introducing a new show there just for the paywall subscribers. It's going to be myself and perhaps even Judas, but at the very least myself going over articles and things from the news that are sent to us and getting sort of visual commentary, doing a video of that. The one I just recorded that I'll be releasing next week was going over that Bronze Age pervert article that was published in Man's World magazine titled "The Populist Moment Didn't Happen." A lot of people have been talking about that, passing that article around. It intended to be like half an hour. It ended up as an hour 45. So if you like our sort of commentary, go there, give that a shot. I think you'll like it. Maybe some clippable moments. Let's just say that. Okay, so moving on now. HateGate, I'm going to play the video that kind of explains it here. Let me just get it going here. I'm pulling this from Twitter. It's not a long video, not a short video. I reserve the right to stop it midway through if I find it is going on a bit too long. But let me just share screen here. Here we go. So everyone let me know if we can or cannot see this. Maybe
For a second, I thought his name was Evan Baglord.
Balgord, which actually is more like a Tolkien villain.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna call him Baglord though.
Evan Balgord, Executive Director of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
Bernie Farber, Chair of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
He's a nonpartisan nonprofit.
We wear our biases on our sleeves. We are very proudly anti-fascist, and we focus on the far right.
Last summer, we had a 100-year-old church burned to the ground.
Canada's leaders aren't condemning the burning of churches. No, they're endorsing the burning of churches.
I understand that it's not your organization's mandate to talk about these things. As you've said, you're clearly focused on the far right.
COVID conspiracy theories.
Safe and effective.
They kill. They kill.
This so-called convoy actually seeded the ground for the worst display of Nazi and racist propaganda that I have ever seen in this country. Bullies, racists, bigots, and Nazis.
Woo! We now have over 300 active hate groups in Canada.
There's other groups that we're very concerned about.
Jeremy Mackenzie, the de facto leader of the Diagolon movement, a neo-Nazi organization.
Excellerationists who want to violently overthrow the system.
Woo!
No fighting, no spitting, no throwing anything, don't even litter.
Who are now also encouraging their members to join.
If there's a speed limit on walking, walk slower than that.
One of the key figures of that, Jeremy Mackenzie, his slogan is gun or rope.
If they say it's now illegal to look at the sky, then look at the ground. Be good, for the love of God.
Do you know if the Canada Anti-Hate Network's views about you have been relied upon by law enforcement or other senior officials in the federal government?
Yes, I have.
Diagolon.
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 Diagolon. Diagolon. A far-right extremist group.
We're talking about a group that is organized, driven by an extreme ideology.
A so-called accelerationist group.
Formed by a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Which aims to accelerate racial conflict to lead to the eventual creation of a white ethno-state.
Its stated purpose is, quote, to incite a...
justify a state of emergency.
Federal. All right, I'm just gonna stop there because we could keep going if we wanted to, but all right. So that was just a short video, sort of introducing it. You're still there, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. So it gets into Jeremy Mackenzie, who's a central figure of this. Basically, the story that they're telling is that the Canada Anti-Hate Network, you saw all the main figures there. Their reporting has been used by the mainstream press, journalists, and Canadian policymakers. And what we are going to learn from the Hategate documents, this is the main headline, is that A, it's a relatively small group, and B, they're full of shit and they lie. That's it. That's really what it is. And it's tracing the pipeline from this dysfunctional group to how they're targeting individuals to bring down the entire force of the Canadian state apparatus upon them. It's Jeremy Mackenzie. It could be anyone. And how the Canadian Anti-Hate Network was started to be Canada's answer to the SPLC. With all of the sort of Canadian insecurities that come with that, like trying to be a bit more ferocious, a bit more open about it. And so I think what we should probably do now, give me a second, is we're going to have a look at who these individuals are. So this is antihate.ca. This is, we just watched a video. We kind of got a lay of the land. And also for people, we might get into this in a little bit, but just so people know, this is explained in the PDF, but I'll just give you a bird's eye view of this. We interviewed Jeremy Mackenzie on the show a few episodes ago. You can find that on the Blood Satellite Clips Odyssey channel, also on our Blood Satellite Clips YouTube clip channel, which we just back. We're still uploading those slowly because we had one that was kind of blowing up and then it got banned. It's the third time we've been banned, whatever. But that interview, very illuminating, very engaging. His entire life story and the process of him going through the Canadian penal system right up until now, what it's like when you have this sort of magnifying glass on you and the harrowing tale that's associated with that. But he's a creator and leader of just kind of a meme group called Dagalon, based off of a joke that you could bisect North America with like a 45-degree angle and have like the based side in the top right, and then one of the sides is the good side, the other side is the bad side.
Yeah, it's top left, like northwest to southeast diagonal line.
Yeah. It's like, and it's a very obviously a joke concept, and then they made a flag, which is like a black flag with a white diagonal line, and then the idea is that the Canadian anti-con, I think we can call them Con.
Yes,
I'm going to call them Con from now on,
as in the original Star Trek villain.
As the original Star Trek villain. I wanted to avoid that. Actually, I set a goal of I'm not going to do a con thing.
Okay, you didn't tell me. It wasn't in the notes. No con jokes. All right.
Sorry, bud. I gotta ding ya. But so the idea is that this is kind of very similar to what happened to the Proud Boys, that the wrong idiots start taking it too seriously. But it is a very large group. It's not necessarily a movement insofar as it's populated by kind of broadly right-leaning people. You'll probably find a pretty mixed milieu in there. And Jeremy Mackenzie would be the top guy, the target of their scorn. And as far as I know, he's the main target. Like he's their nemesis at this point. I think they're generally against the far right, but they've decided his scalp is the one to get. And as far as I can tell, following his case, he's been doing a pretty good job of fighting the charges against him. He's got a few charges against him, but he seems to be doing well enough, and we wish him all the best. So people go listen to that interview to get the full context. We won't go through a lot of Diagolon stuff here. A good chunk of the PDF is spent on that. We're going to skip that part when we get to it. But let's look at these fucking freaks. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network is an independent nonprofit organization made up of Canada's leading experts and researchers on hate groups and hate crimes. And we'll get to this in a second. The Heritage Front. That's a really funny story. You're going to love that. We have relationships with colleagues and organizations doing similar work internationally, such as the Southern Poverty Law Center and experts in de-radicalization. I noticed they didn't have a single other group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we got connections all over the world, like this one group and then the rest.
They probably could have got away with the ADL. I wonder if they just removed that recently.
You know what? Okay. Also, here's another preface. Here's the caution tape I'm putting up over this. We are live streaming. We're on YouTube. I am going to try and keep most of the most inflammatory rhetoric that you've come to expect and love from the Bloods, maybe a bit more tamped down.
Yeah.
Throughout the course of this investigation, you'll notice certain trends with certain key figures of these organizations, certain intra-ethnic allegiances that some might think are very obvious. We won't spend too long hammering those.
But you're probably good enough at noticing that you can notice some things. There's some noticing to do here.
I imagine there will be some noticing.
Yeah.
It's fair to say some people will notice. Okay. So let's start with, who do we start with? I'm not going to do everyone, but there's a couple guys. You know what really
12-year-old?
What really chaps my ass is this guy here, Richard Warman.
Richard,
that seems like
Dick Warman. Damn.
Dick Warman in another life could have been one of our guys.
Cool, yeah.
Look at this guy. He looks like a certified psycho. I would call a friend.
Yeah, he does actually. Dick Warman.
Dignified jawline, zero eyebrows. It takes on a lot of audacity to walk out of the door as this guy. So, but let's have a look. Board member, right? Yeah, more like board member. Richard is a human rights lawyer, perhaps best known for having dedicated an enormous amount of his personal time. This is not a flex. Let me just say that. Right out the gate, I got notes. frankly ridiculous amount of his personal time, energy, and resources over the past 20 years to monitoring and countering the efforts of those who seek to poison our communal well with hate. Odd phrasing, and also that implies that he wasn't employed while
Sounds
doing
like
this.
he's terminally online.
It sounds like he's a terminally online man. Betraying the war man name. The sky was the limit with Dick Warman as your moniker. Okay. This work has predominantly focused on the white supremacist and neo-Nazi movements, particularly the spread of hate propaganda through the internet. which would mean like you back in Twitter, right? Since 2001, after 9/11, he has been made the successful complainant in 16 consecutive cases before the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal dealing with internet hate. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I might want to confer with my colleague Jay Burden on this, but from a lawyer perspective, that sounds really lame and embarrassing.
Yeah, it does.
Like if that's my resume, like this, if this is your career,
you should already be embarrassed to be a lawyer, but that kind of, that's worse.
And then here's the French. I looked at these before. His is the only one that had French in it. What do you think about that?
It's been
what the guy beside him? Which one? Which one? Sorry, which one had the French?
No, I was just talking about him. The only one.
Oh, Dick Warman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. The only.
It's been.
The guy beside him. It's too pixelated. I can't read his name. Can you read it? It's N-I.
There's some dust at the end there. E. Uh-oh. Shit. We're on YouTube.
Nigel.
Okay. Let me just, for the folks at home who are listening, he's wearing a button that says class size matters.
What?
And I think that deserves a ponder. Like, what is it? Like, class size matters. So, if the upper class, if the bourgeois there's not a lot of them, then they don't matter.
Yeah, that's definitely what he means.
Because it sounds like you're saying the 1% doesn't matter.
It definitely has nothing to do with schooling.
Yeah, and it's orange, so I have to assume this has to do with dead children we wish we found. Yeah. I don't even want to look at them. My focus is directed to Sue Gardner.
Yeah.
And this breaks my heart because this is a AAA cut, a moody broad.
Mm-hmm. I can fix her.
I don't even know what's wrong with her. I'm convinced I can fix her. Look at that.
She's on this site. There's going to be something wrong with her.
That is girl with dragon tattoo writ large. Look at those eyes. Tell me those are the eyes that have not severed a penis.
She hasn't just got eyes. She's got SSR eyes.
Damn, we might have peaked early. We might just fuck off. Okay. Okay, Sue Gardner. What's Sue Gardner's story here? Let's just go through it. Sue Gardner's work is motivated by the desire to ensure that everybody in the world has access to the information they need to make good decisions. All right. Sue spent the first decade of career as a journalist at the CBC, where she worked at As It Happens, Sunday Morning, and other much-loved CBC programs. Well, much-loved CBC programs. First of all, there's only one good CBC program.
This hour is 22 minutes.
That's Buck 65's radio show, if that.
Buck 65 has a radio show on CBC?
Yeah, I think it's drive time, something like that.
No way. That's wild.
That's like his main job.
I didn't know that.
By the way,
I had no idea.
He's been releasing records recently. Had like 2 albums come out. I got news for you, pal.
This is now a Buck 65 stream.
I got news for you. They're phenomenal records. The best he's ever done.
I'm going to check them out.
Next live stream is just straight up Buck 65 tracks for the whole beginning of it. Afterwards, she ran the CBC's English language website, cbc.ca, which is an odd way to phrase it, because if you were the editor of the website, you would say you're the editor. Ran the website sounds like you just like owned the hosting account in a sense. I just wanted to skip ahead. We're not going to spend too long on this, but one thing did jump at me. She's been ranked by Forbes magazine as the world's 70th most powerful woman. And I do want to give just some advice to the ladies out there. We're a very popular show with women broadly.
Broadly.
Let me just say this. If you're anything less than in the top 10 most powerful woman, I assume you're at the bottom. Like if you're coming to me, you're saying I'm the 70th most powerful woman on earth. I'm going to assume the lady who cuts my hair is 69. 70 means nothing to me. It means less than nothing.
Hey, I gotta read a dono. I've just been alerted by my wife because the Odyssey donos are not showing up. Good old Friar Milk has sent us $5 on Odyssey, and I don't know how to read it because it's just a picture of him pissing on the YouTube logo.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
So thanks, Milk. Love you, buddy. Appreciate the donation.
This is
he also said
certified
big white
hood
cock.
classic.
Sorry, what?
He also said big white cock. I don't know why.
Fair.
Wicked sick.
Also, I'm just going to end on this, and we'll move on after this. I just want to call attention to this one. This is what she puts on her CV, and is a proud recipient of the Nyan Cat Medal of Internet Awesomeness for defending internet freedom. Oh, don't you hate her?
That's
now. This was going to be my second wife until just now. Think of how much she would want to get with like a Diagolon guy after she's looked at this fucking loser. After this fucking what have we got here? Let me just say this. Hold on.
The 12-year-old.
Elvin Balgord.
Look at this faggot.
You know what he's got? Like we talked about SSRIs as a very perfect joke, but this guy has what I would describe. I don't know what to call it other than the Antifa look.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like that look in the eyes where it's I'm driven, but I'm not helpless, but I'm a pacifist. You know, I'm harmless, driven but harmless. Like look at that look where it's an impotent to determination.
It's that demeanor of a hothouse plant. Like they spent so long in an isolated environment that they don't realize how impotent they actually are. So they can walk around with their back straight and kick their feet out and pick fights with people, and then they get stabbed in New York, and then they don't know what happened. Why is my boyfriend dead? He's like, yeah, because that was always you, and you never knew it until the last second. So
that would be funny if I saw the video of that guy getting stabbed. Was that what she? Why is my boyfriend dead? I don't know if that's what she said, but
it sounds we have to dub it with what happened? He's dead.
Very much a theater class reaction, like looking at the crowd. My boyfriend, he's been killed, gesticulating to the fucking cobbles. I don't even want to go off on that because really there's going to be people who probably watch this stream and we should be putting our best face forward, best feet forward. We shouldn't just be laughing at these things. But it is, but you know. Evan is an investigative journalist and researcher covering the rise of the new far right and hate groups in Canada. By the way, executive director, for people who don't know, is a made-up title. And I encourage people, if you're looking for a job on your resume, put yourself as an executive director. You might be thinking, oh my God, that's something you have to work your entire life towards. No, it's actually a special title. A CEO, you need to earn. Chairman of the board, you don't really earn that. You get cast away to that. Manager, you actually have to earn. Director is this perfect title that is just given away willy-nilly because it looks good on a business card. You can make it up. No one's going to check it. Everyone listening to this should be an executive director now.
A couple of years ago, I had a client quite close with that. I visited them often. I think there were maybe 20 people in their office, and more than half of them, that was their title, was director. It was just wild. I'd be in a meeting, like me and one of my guys, and 6 of them, and all 6 of them were fucking directors.
Yeah. And also be wary if you're at a job and they start dangling that in front of you. Like they're going to try and make you obsessed with the clout. attached to it. Like, I'm a director now. If it doesn't come with a raise, tell them to get speared.
Mm-hmm.
This one's more of a comment, really.
All right. So Evan is an investigative journalist. And blah, blah, blah. He's a fellow of the Monk School of Global Affairs Fellowship in Global Journalism and graduated with an honors Bachelor of Science from the University of Toronto, double majoring in psychology and sociology. Now, like that's like a girl thing to do, and the girls who do that have borderline personality disorder. So the men who get into that, I assume, have some other cocktail of mental illnesses. No one gets into those stuff if they're not fucking insane.
Yeah.
And that's just another tip. You're getting resume tips, you're getting relationship tips. If you're on Tinder, whatever you're using for fucking and sucking, be wary of anyone who's into psychology, especially if they're girls. They are going to crawl up your penis hole and stick some dynamite up there.
Yes.
Then drive a forklift up there with their mom as a passenger. And their mom's wearing the mask of their father.
What the fuck? Dude.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Buddy.
What the fuck? Before this, Evan was working as a special assistant to Mayor John Tory. The special assistant. Like, that does sound like a gay boy. He was the mayor's gay boy.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't John Tory gay? Or just his policies were gay? I've forgotten.
I mean, is it possible for a gay man to have non-gay policies?
No, I guess not.
Now we're getting back into the BAP thing. Anyway, he served as a vice president of the Canadian Association of Journalists and as a non-academic affiliate of the Canadian Network of Research. Just a bunch of a hodgepodge. This guy's a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
So here's our rogues gallery, but there's really only one guy that matters. The guy that matters is Bernie Farber.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is going to be fun. Acknowledged as one of Canada's most accomplished NGO CEOs, Bernie Farber's career spans more than a quarter century, focused on human rights, anti-racism, pluralism, and interethnic bullshit. His efforts have been documented in numerous Canadian human rights publications. Mr. Farber has successfully run large NGOs and foundations such as Canadian Jewish Congress, the Paloma Foundation, and he is recently retired as executive director of the Mosaic Institute. So he doesn't go much into this in this biography, but yeah, he was in charge of the Canadian Jewish Congress for, I'd say, the most of his career, if I have that right. Now he's a human rights consultant. All right, so all I'm going to say is jot that one down. That's going to come up later. Okay, so let us just close this. Sorry, it takes me a bit of time just to get this shit figured out. Your screen, hate gate there. Okay. Here we go. Man, let's get the chat overlay out of here. All right. So this is the PDF. Very nice cover, by the way. Hate Gate Affair, Unmasking Canada's Hate Industry. And Proud Boys, from what I read, I didn't get to the very, very end. I got to page roughly 70 of the 85 pages. But Proud Boys doesn't come up a lot, but I think it could be said that Proud Boys are like the precursor to what's going on here. Proud Boys were like the first group that really spooked these people. And it didn't help that Proud Boys, despite how they started, eventually did splinter off into a bunch of associated appendages, some of which were just straight up, white nationalists, maybe some terrorist groups, maybe a bunch of different stuff, all under the same banner, but generally decentralized, as far as I know. So I think they have like the specter of the Proud Boys looming over the head, and they want to catch him this time, And so, like, Jeremy McKenzie represents the Gavin McInnes that they can actually get and make themselves feel better, right? Okay, yeah. So it's published by Carmia Saad and Elisa Hadigan. So,
do you think those are real names?
They are. Yeah.
One of them's sad and one of them's hate again. It's amazing. Like, just fucking, it's a simulation, man.
It's true. That is true. You know what? Astonishingly, that didn't occur to me until just now. Written sad and hateful. Okay, but yeah, these are two unironic women doing this, but they seem to do great work. It is what it is. The lads are too busy getting their ears pierced. Rockin' takes up most of the day. Mexican industry, so I've got some jumping off points here. So I might skip the part on Diagolon since we just covered that, but there's one page here that really sets the stage, and we're going to get into the creation of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which is fascinating in itself. But one of the authors is Elisa Hadigan, and she will be known to a lot of people as a woman who is involved with this group called the Heritage Front. So we're going to talk about that because that really sets the stage for what we're talking about now. In the early 90s, 16-year-old Romanian immigrant Elisa Hadigan was held up as the innocent young face of an Ontario neo-Nazi white supremacist group known as the Heritage Front, with over 200 members, including violent skinheads with convictions for aggravated assault, kidnapping, and attempted murder, and implicated in fire bombings. It was considered the most dangerous white supremacist group in modern Canadian history. I don't know what there would be for pre-modern history, but let's move on. Elisa was groomed as a media spokesperson to soften the image of violent skinheads, even appearing on the Montel Williams show. For the Zoomers out there, Montel Williams was basically the Barack Obama of his day.
It's true.
Now, what happened next is interesting. Elisa began to secretly provide information to anti-racist activists and at great personal risk, revealing details about illegal weapons and the identity of a Toronto police officer who was a group member. At age 18, she defected from the group, stealing part of Holocaust denier Ernst Zundel's membership list, which was frankly pretty rude in this reporter's opinion. Leave Zundel alone. Months later, her courtroom testimony was instrumental in securing convictions. I'm just going to look up something really here. I want to see if I could actually read what actually happened there, because I want to really encapsulate it. I was going to read it from the Wikipedia page. Actually, let's just go here. While the leaders were serving jail time, co-founder and second-in-command leader Grant Bristow was exposed as an undercover CSIS operative by Toronto Sun reporter Bill Dunphy, in part due to scrutiny that arose after Hadigan's affidavits and testimony date. Let's just underscore that for a second. The second-in-command, one of the primary leaders of this group, was a Fed. And this whole section goes into Hadigan's story as she's on the run and she was betrayed by CSIS and betrayed by the RCMP. She put her life on the line and then no one was there to help her. I'm not terribly interested in that. That's been litigated elsewhere. I just want to say that the Heritage Front was a far-right white supremacist group that was led by a Fed, that was implicated in fire bombings, that was implicated in all sorts of criminal activity, but that activity was not blamed on the Fed. All that was done while the CSIS was in charge of the organization. That part seems to be skipped over for me. And again, that might sound like very basic bitch stuff to people, but this is like when you talk about, everyone talks about cases where like, oh, this or that group, like Adam Waffen or whatever, is actually a Fed op. The biggest one in Canadian history was literally a Fed op. And there's no reason to believe that all of these criminal activities weren't actually dreamed up by fucking CSIS. Like it's entrapment in this reporter's opinion. But it is true that Elisa, who, let me see, it mentions it here that Elisa was not only a lesbian, but also Jewish.
Go figure.
Yeah, it mentions that in here. And again, maybe that's neither here nor there. I would say that the Heritage Front perhaps needed some of the what we might call vetting these days, but I think I'm not a member of any of these groups, but I would imagine if I were in charge of like the NJP, if I were in charge of Patriot Front, any of these groups, I would say, you know what, we're going to keep an eye out for Jewish lesbians. Like just not maybe that's not the be all no, but let's keep an eye on them to make sure we don't give them all of the information.
Make sure we don't give them Ernest Zundel's membership.
Make sure we don't give them the Ernst Zundel's Rolodex. And like, to me, like I wasn't there, but this sounds like it could be a sequence of what we affectionately call fool's errors. Let me see. I should find more sound drops for this. Let's see. I'm going to have a few. Oh, here's one we could do. Just wanted to use that. Okay. It was 2001, long after Elias had returned to Toronto following a stint as an ESL teacher in Seoul, South Korea. They'll take any sort of white bitch, won't they? And this is how she comes across this group called Anti-Racist Canada, or ARC. ARC is important. ARC is going to come up later on. ARC was like an Antifa site, effectively. ARC featured articles about Canada's far right and exposés of people the author characterized as extremists. So again, just one guy's site. Recognizing an individual ARC was trying to identify in an old Ernst Zundel photo, she left a comment, but got hooked up with this group that was going after Nazis and trying, like they've been doing this since fucking forever. Let's see. I'm going to skip ahead here. Let's skip ahead to 35 because this is actually interesting. So she gets hooked up with this guy who's running this named Kurt, and their relationship was very interesting. So this guy was like sleuthing around trying to dox Nazis and stuff. So their friendship allowed Eliza exclusive and unfiltered access to Kurt's sleuthing tactics, which included LARPing as a Russian model named Anya and cosplaying as a Nazi to extract what at times seemed like rather dubious intel, such as hardcore erotica stories. So it seems like Antifa were always up to their old tricks of pretending to be girls and being horny in chat.
Some things never change, man.
And if there's one thing I know about Antifa is they don't really change their tactics a lot. So without question, be wary of horny girls you see in chat because they're probably like a bearded, goony guy with SSRIs. Anya was one of Kurt Phillips's alter egos, a hot blonde Russian model who lurked in white nationalist chat rooms. Conversations with neo-Nazi Paul Frum, also a former high school teacher, elicited erotic images and stories from Frum, including a fanfic where starring Rasputin, which included the protagonist fondly reminiscing about having anal sex as a child. Holy cow.
Woo lads.
Kurt boasted about such conquests and disseminated screenshots like trophies to Eliza and other female ARC collective member. He talked about saving the information to be publicly exposed at the right moment, but nothing meaningful appears to have been accomplished. Not even when Fromm sought to run for public office. So this guy, the Antifa, was just collecting horny Rasputin stories, I guess.
Probably printing it out and like pinning it in his dorm. And then not giving it to the police, yeah.
I just want to have it. You know, we as like generationally, we've never solved the Pokemon gotta catch 'em all psychosis that was implanted into us.
Yeah.
So like he's just the guy, he's got to have all the stuff. Oh, this is interesting. In 2015, Eliza's depression spiraled because she's got a lot of depression going on. Oh, actually, wait. Here's the best part. Eliza hadn't seen Kurt, but hints appeared when he shared plans to buy a silicone skinhead mask to cosplay as a skinhead in online forums. So, all I want to say is, like, look at this. This is kind of a crude drawing, but we should all ask ourselves, how much do you really know about Alex McNabb?
It is a mask, isn't it? Jesus, the ears.
Did he just kind of show up one day?
He's always late for the episode because he has to spend an hour to put the latex on.
He's always futzing with his neckline. You don't know what's going on there. He's always wearing odd shirts that never go below that line. All right. Anyway, in 2015, Eliza's depression spiraled because, this is also a Jewish lesbian. So her story is plagued by depression, problems at home, mental illness. Everyone seems to be against her. While she'd been hiding, the CBC had called life experience. Sorry, continue. What?
She also wrote this document.
That is true. As I was reading, I forgot that she wrote this thing.
She's writing it about herself. Yeah.
Yeah. That is important. This is why it's good that you're here. Without you here, it would just be like, wow, this person knows her really well. Eliza's depression spiraled into despair after abruptly discovering that while she'd been in hiding, the CBC had culled lived experiences from her 1994 trial testimony and interviews with people who knew her into a movie titled White Lies, starring Sarah Polley. Now, this is a known movie. You can go find this movie. We might even cover it on the show. I don't know. It might not be that interesting. But so they made a movie about her life. She's pissed off. When she posted on Facebook that her only relative in Canada was dying, she recalls that Kurt's response was a sad face emoji. Suicidal and under the influence of alcohol, she wrote him an angry, abrasive letter accusing him of being no better than the Nazis he claimed to fight. She CC'd it to another ARC member before blocking him. Now, we're going to get to the inception because ARC leads into the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. That's why we're talking about it. Let's see here. There's a lot of talk about Twitter followers. Okay. Actually, as Kurt's fame and popularity grew, he, a man who had never shut down any hate groups or formally studied criminology and terrorism, was touted as an expert of the far right, while the Jewish woman with formal training who had risked her life to shut down a hate group was smeared as a Nazi. I'm just gonna leave it there. It's what it is. It's really a how about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now we'll get to the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network was incorporated in Toronto on March 30th, 2018 as a not-for-profit organization that purports to be an anti-fascist and anti-racist advocacy group. We covered that already. This is what's interesting. So here is the genesis of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, and I think this is most important. So, armed with $25,000 in seed funding from the Southern Poverty Law Center, Khan quickly outpaced other fledgling nonprofits by raking in sizable donations, a significant grant from the Bank of Montreal, and a $260,000 grant from the Liberal government's Anti-Racism Action Program. It certainly helped that two of the men at its helm, Farmer and Balgord, had extensive media connections, which ensured that Khan would receive any kind of widespread coverage that it wanted. So for people who might not be aware, a grant is just free money. This wasn't a loan. This wasn't even an investment. It's just here, we're throwing money at you and good luck. Have fun with it. It might have been an organization, but the ARC collective modus operandi continued. A chimera of sorts, Khan absorbed the blog archive, arbitrary targets, and questionable cyber sleuthing tactics Kurt had relied on for over a decade, transplanted them into a new incarnation, one that arguably turned the word leverage into a business plan. So, to gain a rudimentary understanding of how ARC and Khan's roads intersect, you need to look no further than the explosive allegations contained in the Toronto journalist, anti-fascist activist Kevin Metcalf. Now, this is an interesting guy. This kind of shows how the ARC, this anti-fascist site, just became Khan. This is a fun story. We're just gonna have some fun reading this story, okay? Now, everyone, stay with me here. Metcalf first met Evan Balgord in 2013 at Christina Freeland's victory party.
What?
Now, in preparation for this article, some people might not have known who Christina Freeland is, what she's known
the Prime
for.
Minister.
She's the Prime Minister. Her physical attributes, just to give people an idea of what people up here know her for. I did a Google search for Christina Freeland war crime of a dumper, and I wasn't able to find anything. Fred, if you're trying to find
those of you
got a folder of Christina Freeland's Frank, inappropriately sized ass.
It's Christia, I think, but you can call
Christia.
her Christina. I'm sure that pisses her off.
It is Christian. That we know it's an annoying name to have.
It really is.
You have no fucking business having this name. As he recalls it, sometime later, Balgord, who was rumored to be Toronto ex-mayor John Tory's nephew, it seems like a rumor you could check pretty easily, but whatever. If you're a fucking journalist, right? Whatever. Invited him for a beer at a bar around the corner from downtown condo his U.S. banker parents' money was paying for a discussion centered around the dark arts of politics.
Amazing.
Now, without skipping ahead, don't look down. This sounds gay, correct?
Yes.
And I'm just handing out advice for everyone here during this episode. If anyone in your life, there's young guys listening, young girls listening, if anyone promises you insight into the dark arts of anything, you turn around and you stab them in the back.
Yeah.
So he goes to this man's condo, his elite parents' own, to discuss the dark arts of this or that. According to Metcalf, Balgord had a specific interest in Twitter disinformation, sock puppetry, and media manipulation. Anything aside from being like a cool guy people like online. You'll notice that. Guys who've got the fucking beautiful minds, science in their minds, are like, how do I get followers? Instead of just like being an interesting, insightful, likable man. After the beers, they went back to Balgord's place. That's when Metcalf claims that Balgord behaved in a way that made him uncomfortable. Uh-oh.
He was acting like a real bag lord back
He was,
in the condo.
Yeah, I tell you what he should be. He should be a bog lord. I don't want to sound like a swipe at Dave Martell. I want him to be in the bog. Save for a sporadic email exchange, they would not meet again until 2016. So there was a gay moment. I'm glad that she included that because that's catnip for us. Look, a bunch of weird gay guys doing things. Don't like it. 1 week after Metcalf was hired by the Canadian Journalist of Free Expression, Metcalf slowly warmed to Balgord despite feeling that his communication suggested a cavalier attitude towards the truth. Let's skip ahead here. Now, Metcalf claims that he provided advice and feedback on how to start a nonprofit, which depended on Balgord's ability to acquire Kurt Phillips's Anti-Racist Canada website, which came complete with a decade-long archive of anti-fascist street cred. Balgord told me straight up that this hinged on professionalizing ARC. To give credence to his statements, Metcalf's tweet is accompanied by a screenshot of an email where Balgord does indeed appear intent on continue ARC by morphing it into a Canadian rendition of the Southern Poverty Law Center. So he's just absorbing this anti-fascist blog and trying to add legitimacy to it. Now, where it gets interesting is down here. I'm going to try and keep us going at a good clip here. Now, he also claims that Warren Kinsella, Bernie Farber's, remember Bernie Farber from a while ago, longtime friend and self-admitted brother from another mother, was the one to initially connect Balgord to Richard Warman, Dick Warman, by email after being looped into an email thread related to Metcalf's assault by the JDL, the Jewish Defense League. Now, I kept scanning this document and I couldn't find more information on that or what they mean by that. There's some kind of assault occurring with the Jewish Defense League. Let's see here. On the way home from Ottawa, Evan told me that he needed to reach out to Bernie. That was 2 months before Charlottesville. I think Bernie just brought the license of the Jewish community. That's when Evan stopped trying to dox the JDL. So this Evan guy was trying to go after the Jewish Defense League, was being stopped by Bernie Farber. There's no way to account for this, but Balgord didn't respond to the request. Now, here's what's interesting. Things between Metcalf and Balgord soured after Metcalf was fired from the CJFE for releasing a public statement condemning Israel for the deaths of Gaza journalists. So this guy, Metcalf, a naive, doe-eyed Antifa guy, who's gotten in with some highfalutin Jews, went after Israel. What happened to him? Metcalf believes he was blacklisted by the CBC and other mainstream press after that. Khan stopped mentioning Metcalf in their articles, which prompted him to declare he was going to criticize them for being co-optive. He was swiftly blocked. It's called bad jacketing. My follower count engagement plummeted. And he just goes into description about like how he lost his career because he went after Israel, and his new Jewish boss just got rid of him. Right now, here's where it gets interesting. To this day, Metcalf remains unequivocal in his characterization of Khan. Quote, "This network is a malicious hive mind which turns friends into enemies in a bid to maintain its hegemony over Canadian anti-fascist spaces. That which will not be co-opted or which lacks ongoing utility must be marginalized and defamed. They're not just an anti-hate nonprofit. They are an unaccountable nonprofit spy agency, and I would say with some authority that I believe this was always the goal. I've tried to broach the subject. Now, I just want to pause here, and again, I don't want to hammer this point too much, right? But he seems to be missing the obvious thing here. Like if we look at the story, and you can jump in here at any time if you see where I'm going with this. Anti-fascist guy. Everything's going great. He's got his career going, and he's meeting the right people. Crosses one specific group, has his entire life destroyed, according to him, his professional career destroyed, cast out of the entire movement. And his take is that it's been co-opted by spies.
Spies is a funny way to describe them. I mean, it's just, categorically, that's a thing they were doing. Was there anything else you noticed about them, though?
Is there anything else about this group that might have stood out, that might have informed the specific thing you were blacklisted for? Knowing a guy like him,
he brought up the fact that he was blacklisted, bad jacketed, after the article about the Palestinian journalist. So obviously he knows the context. Like, this is willful ignorance.
I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I would imagine him saying it's because Israel is a Western imperialist state under the thumb of American whites.
It's an apartheid state under
It
the
is
thumb
not.
of it's only doing it because of the U.S. government's oil requirements in the region, right?
Exactly. It's all about oil. It's
all
about
oil.
And I know that Biden is president, but in a lot of ways, this is still about Bush.
Yeah, it'll always be about Bush.
The cherry on top being Trump. But anyway, just not to spend too much. It blows my mind that a guy he can go through this meat grinder and come out the other side, not saying that, oh, it's fucking Jews. I crossed Jews and had my life fucking destroyed. That's what fucking happened. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. By the other day, I mean today, because I'm not a coward, and when we decide that we don't want to just keep hammering Jewish stuff, it's not because we're being cowardly. It's because we actually want to talk about other things. But when you talk about a story like this, you can't say that the heart of this story isn't a Jewish story.
Yeah, you can't talk around it.
If you say that, you're being fucking disingenuous. You're being untruthful. I'm fucking sorry.
It's almost, this is a sort of thing you like. The story is so Jewish in its. I don't mean Jewish like categorically. I mean, like, if you were just going to write a totally objective account, half of the characters are Jewish, and the reasoning for things has to do with. You could conservatively say international politics relating to Israel and to Jewish citizens and their political roles in the Canadian state. Like, and that's, I'm just I don't know what else do you say? Like,
yeah,
is it anti-Semitic to?
It's like the Canadian anti-hate network got to where it is because of Jewish networking and the support of internationalist Jewish organizations like the SPLC.
They said the only reason that Con got to where it was specifically because Bernie Farber, who had run the Jewish Congress for 20 years, had so many media connections that he could get it as much attention as it wanted. So the day that it was launched, it's out in everybody's face. It's getting grants left, right, and center. Why? Because of Bernie Farber, the head of the Jewish Congress. That's the story. That's the facts.
And so, you know, like I'm sensitive, I'm attentive to the people who want to play the narrative game and perhaps dance around that, especially those who are in the convoy, the trucker convoy that are being attacked by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, especially the individuals who need to do this whole song and dance in front of the media. But until the day that we end up in front of the media, I'm just going to speak the fucking truth. And this is just this is a Jewish group that is targeted freedom-loving Canadian nationalists who actually don't have. The thing about them is they don't have enough like scars on their soul to call this out. I guess like they would rather believe this wasn't true. They would rather believe that they weren't being subjected to a bunch of Zionist horse shit, but they fucking are. And they're going to call you Nazi. They're never not going to call you Nazis. You didn't want the government to inject you with some random shit. And this guy, this Jewish man, decided to call you a Nazi and convince the cops to arrest you. That's what happened. If that's not the headline, it's a disingenuous fucking headline. And maybe saying that will get people to tune off and tune out or whatever. But like that's what we're going to go. And as we go through this, you're going to see that it keeps fucking coming up. So sorry. There's an interesting part here on page 42 that I think a lot of people should pay attention to. So this is how these groups are funded, because the other angle to the Canadian Anti-Hate Network is like how they got their seed funding, but where these financial and capital pipelines are coming from. Like, how do these groups actually function? Because one thing I always keep in mind when I think of these groups is that there's not a lot of them. And we kind of saw the video at the top of the show where you'll see them in clips on news programs. The entire organization is run out of like some apartment. It's one room with a bunch of tables in it and computers. It could be a shared workspace for all you fucking know. And we've seen from the site, it's 6 people. And I'm telling you right now, 3 of those people are off somewhere else. They just have photos on the website. There's actively like 2 or 3 people in this organization. That's it. And like I'm telling you all right now, I don't care what the fuck you do with this information, but just know that these organizations are usually like 2 to 5 people.
Yeah.
They're not big. They get a lot of money because one of them, their job is proposal writing, grant proposal writing. It's not easy. Writing proposals to get grants, it sucks. But if you do it, sometimes you actually just get free money. It can be that easy.
There's
And
another element to it that we talked about on the previous episode of the show as well, which just kind of about networks and societies, right? That even though it's only a few people, even though Bernie Farber himself is probably never in that office, the fact that they have his phone number and he's involved, and he has the phone number of the 500 most powerful people in Canada who he can call anytime, even though it's tiny, these just a couple of people, and some of them are dead-eyed 22-year-olds. They actually have a huge, powerful network, and it is essentially, it's almost, you can see the way that they're saying it's organized like a spy network. It's essentially almost a secret society. Like it has its public mandate, and then it has a secret mandate, and they have anyways.
And so for people who might not be aware of what we're talking about, in the last episode we discussed the book The Square and the Tower by Niall Ferguson, and it's about the importance and the effectiveness of secret societies in intellectual and revolutionary movements throughout history, human history, even all throughout different cultures. And a way to look at it, I like how you just described it. Another way to look at it would be that these are just the public-facing appendages of one connected secret society.
Right.
Because all these people, they go to these cocktail parties and these house parties, whatever it is. So, there have been events, I remember from years ago, where it revealed that like all these journalists from different newspapers were part of this like shared Antifa Discord server. And there's like 10,000 journalists who are like on the same like anti-Trump secret Facebook group. Like that is the secret society. The secret society is like 20,000 journalists in a Facebook group coordinating the headlines. And then a few of those are like public facing think tanks or whatever. But, you know, that is the real network you're talking about. Like Bernie Farber, his power isn't necessarily like if the Canadian Anti-Hate Network closed down tomorrow, he would just be reabsorbed in that fucking like strange, what was it, Zio Antifa mass and pop up somewhere else. And then maybe do a rehabilitation tour and go on Ben Shapiro's show and say, I'm changed. I'm based now.
I'm a Catholic now.
Don't give them ideas. This has been a bad decade for Catholics. Frank, this has been a bad half century. And I don't need another, like, oh yeah, Jews are becoming Catholics now. Why couldn't they just stayed gay? All right, so continue on. Even as Farber's complaints mounted, a June 2020 article publicized that Con Advisory Board member Barbara Perry, director of the Center of Hate, Bias, and Extremism at Ontario Tech University. Like, this is kind of what I'm getting at here. So I'm trying to highlight, but it's not letting me highlight. Not sure why. But look at all these universities and find these like weird departments and find these like these like centers that you've never heard about, but had received $800,000 in funding from the Department of National Defense, nearly $1 million from the Department of National Defense to, quote, develop a research-based network for exploration of the far right and hateful conduct in the armed services. I kind of skipped that part there because there's a big, long section about a scandal with the Canadian Armed Forces. I would recommend people actually get this document, read it front to back, cover to cover. Nothing but good stuff in here, but I'm trying to kind of save the good stuff here. But they're saying anyone who's looking into extremism in the armed forces, we will throw money at you. And as an anecdotal example, like I know for a fact that if you are a nonprofit and you are dealing with any sort of counter extremism, and this could be Muslim extremism, this could be far right, it's the big one they like now. Facebook will just throw ad credit to the tune of like $500,000, which is like free ad credits. Like that's not nothing. That's not free money, but that's about as good as free money because that lets you get your shit in front of tens of millions of people for free. So for any nonprofit, that is effectively money in the bank. I mean, that's actually how you would justify getting more actual money year over year. Like, look at how many. And the good thing about nonprofits, sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but this is my area of expertise. The best part about nonprofit advertising is you don't need to show any return on investment. Usually, you can produce a fucking video and say it got 1.5 million views. We raised awareness. That's our mandate. Our mandates are raising awareness. That's it. So you can just make shitty videos forever, and you don't actually have to track how many extremists you really converted, or if those ones who are converted are actually just lying, which they usually are, even on the far right. I think that's what what's the fat guy, the Traditional Workers Party, Matt Heimbach. That's what he did. Like he joined like Light Upon Light and was an anti-extremist for a while, just because like that's the thing you do. That's like an avenue people have. It's like, I'm leaving the extremist life. I want some free cash in the meantime. I'm going to pretend like I've been rehabilitated, get what I can, and then go on to what other weirder thing I'm going to do. So her co-lead on the project was David Hoffman from the University of New Brunswick, who was widely quoted by CTV and other networks on Diagolon. And this is important. I didn't mention this at the start, but this is important. The RCMP found it difficult to understand how Hoffman could assuredly purport that Diagolon is an American-style militia movement. And this is the other big story you should take from this, that the government's CSIS, everyone listened to all this drummed up horseshit about Diagolon. They looked into it and said, yeah, there's nothing here. So but that didn't stop the story. And it sucks that investigation was triggered by these two motherfuckers. and they're fucking journalist sycophants making $35K a year, whatever it is. But like they at the end of the day, they said, well, Diagolon isn't a hate movement, but it's, as far as I know, it's still ongoing because they just decided it's an axe to grind. So this was one of the several grants Perry was awarded since hitching her wagon to Khan. $500,000 from Facebook to research violent extremism. 366,000 over 3 years from the government of Canada to examine a right-wing extremism movement through interviews with law enforcement. And it goes on and on. She earns an annual $203,000 just for hanging out, along with grants. Along with the grants come paid speaking engagements, prestigious conferences, fancy club invitations, town halls, academic presentations. So the story they're making here is that you can generate a lot of money by like drumming up hate. That the story they're being telling you here is that they're inventing a hate movement and then generating all the funds from that. So you could take a cynical approach. You could say, this is all non-ideological. This is all just a cash grab. I don't believe it is. I believe that Bernie Farber is ideological. I think he actually does see Nazis everywhere. I think he thinks people who are unvaccinated deserve to be in jail. I think these people believe all these things.
Mhm.
So I'm not completely cynical about that. But there are people who have a financial interest in playing this thing never admitting that they're wrong. Let's put it that way. And making and emphasizing the most benign aspects of the case. So let's see. And they say, with such significant funds pouring in from different sources to research far-right extremism, a cynic might speculate as to whether researchers could be getting paid for what might be viewed, at least in part, as overlapping work. A cynic might also question the narrative of full service providers who get to define a problem and supply the solutions to the same problem. So this would also be sort of an anti-bureaucratic take. And again, I am friendly to the people who would like to take that approach, to believe that this is all just a cash grab, that they're all, like, no one believes this. No one actually believes that we're Nazis. Like, you'll hear this from conservatives. Like, they call everyone Nazis. They don't believe they're Nazis. They're just saying it. I'm like, no. Guys like Bernie Farber do believe that you're a Nazi. They believe that you're a Nazi if you don't like trans stuff. That they are ideologically possessed. Whatever you're feeling as an ideology are, like, they are coming for you because that is what they truly fucking believe.
Mhm.
He believes Jeremy McKenzie is the next fucking Hitler. And, you know, you can tell that because he's not very creative when he says it. The public safety grant was in partnership with the London, UK-based Institute for Strategic Dialogue. Like, they have this is what I wanted to point out here. Like, if you look these up, there's institutes all over the world that are just dedicated to fighting the far right. Again, maybe like 3 to 5 or 5 to 7 people there, but like, they're fucking everywhere, and they're just kind of passing money between each other. And I think, and the reason we bring this up is I think with enough pressure, you know, I made the claim on one episode, and a good friend of mine, Paul Fahrenheit, was kind of taking it to the streets to see if he can make it work. I had made the claim that any 5 committed guys could get any of these nonprofits shut down legally. You know, without using threats, without using blackmail, nothing like that. Using the exact same pressure tactics that they use. And the reason I said that is because the people who run these organizations are very weak and timid and cowardly, and they're usually women. How do I know this? Because I've dealt with these organizations. In my career, I've dealt with nonprofits. I've been in the meetings and I've accessed the email chains, and I've dealt with these clients, not directly sometimes, but in the same kind of pool. And a lot of them are quite stupid, and they're not terribly informed. And, you know, one example that I'd given on the show before years ago was that there was like it wasn't the ADL, but it was another group like that. And they had released the topics or the keywords that they wanted to target for their next anti-right-wing hate campaign, right? These were like the top threats, the right-wing threats in America. And they had like the KKK at the top still, right? And they had like the Christian identity movement. Which, a lot of people know about that. Like, we wouldn't say that. Like, it's kind of a silly thing, right? I wouldn't say that, but that's where they are. Like, they are so locked into, like, they genuinely think that there's like guys in pointy hoods lurking around the corner. That's how fucking out of fucking touch they are. So, forget about like knowing what Patriot Front is. And as you'll see through the in this document, hopefully we can get to it before we have to go. But a lot of them they're like sending emails between each other, like, who's Diagolon? What are they? Who's this? Does anyone know who this is? Right? Sorry, I just heard a blip. Can you still hear me, right?
No, that's fine. That was my chair.
No, I heard a blip on my end. I just didn't know what the fuck that was. Anyway,
it might also be my chair. My chair, it's my chair. My chair, man. Believe me.
Your chair can't fucking be everything. That's a weird thing to claim, too. It's not. You made a beep sound. Let's see here. Let me just check my notes here. 4, 5, or 6. Let's skip this. Here's a funny thing. Okay, I found this under civilian undercover operations. Here is an actual con job description casting call for people to play neo-Nazis under assumed identities. Let's just have a look at this. We're hiring another reporter who understands far-right and white supremacist movements and isn't afraid to join their spaces under a pseudonym to get info. Show us that you know the subject and have some news writing skills, and we'll consider you. I like how they call it news writing skills. Okay.
Not reporting, mind you, writing.
Yeah.
We write the news.
55K to like hang out and shitpost all day.
Damn, I should join. It sounds good.
I might be revealing our hand a little bit here, but I unironically think that this is something that we should explore.
We all sign up.
Like, it is
like literally all of us.
If they can pretend to be horny Nazis in the chat, how many people can pretend to be Antifa and get paid $55K a year to hang out in the same chats and shitpost all day?
Mm-hmm.
And all you need to do is professionally be inept. And that should not be difficult for some of the people I have great affection for in our scene. I trust them to be inept. Con founder Richard Warman is perhaps best known for going undercover using an anonymous account to infiltrate far-right corners of the internet. He made prolific use of the now repealed Section 13(1) of the Canadian Human Rights Act, winning 10 cases for the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal. The Supreme Court in Canada endorsed the hallmarks of hate enumerated in Warman v. Cuba. However, in Warman versus Owendick, the CHRT ruled that Warman's posts, which he initially denied were his, could have precipitated further hate messages from forum members, describing this as both disappointing and disturbing as it diminishes his credibility. So he got in trouble for being a bit too spicy in his posts.
Yeah. It's literally entrapment. And it is funny because he wants to take credit for his like legal prowess, but also the plaintiff in all of these cases is him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's a lawyer pretending to be a plaintiff so that he can create a plaintiff and then taking this person in front of the CHRC, which is not a real court. Like this is just wild. Dick Warman is a real character, let me tell you.
Unless he is who we dream he might be, which is the most hour of guys.
He's just that guy getting $55K to fuck around with the boys. So yeah,
that could be him. Dick Warman could be the chosen one, and if I'm getting too close to plugging him in or out of the Matrix, Lord strike me down.
Yeah.
With hindsight, he told the Ottawa Citizen in 2009, things might have been done differently today. I want to see his posts.
Oh man,
I want to see him so bad.
What's the other guy's name again? It's Evan Baglord.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we synthesize them? They would be the perfect duo because it would be Dick Warlord and Evan Bagman.
Yeah. Let's try to scan parts here. It's kind of going through her life again. Going back over the Heritage Front thing again. Let's see here. I'm going to go to page 53 here. So this is the important stuff. This is the real meat and potatoes of what we want to talk about now. I found we can probably spend quite a bit of time in here if we want to. So this is the behind the scenes of, like we've seen with Khan, where the money comes from. We've seen how the money circulates. We've seen how they network. We've seen how their information disseminates. And we've seen every element of this organization. We've seen who works there. We've seen how they work there. We've seen who they betrayed to get there and how they came on and how they use that to enrich themselves. Now we're going to talk about like how people in the government kind of see them and deal with them. And this is what I thought was interesting. And it starts with the Five Eyes. Now, for people who don't know, the Five Eyes is sort of the internet sharing state apparatus between America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and some Britain. So, yeah. Also, it says right here in front of me. I was doing the thing where I'm looking up, trying to remember, forgetting that I have the fucking PDF in front of me. On April 7, 2020, an email lands in the inbox of Washington-based RCMP officer Sean Gordon. The subject was restricted Canadian protests, e-diagolon. The sender's name is redacted from the correspondence, but the domain is at police.government.nz. It's funny. So this is them hearing about Diagolon and talking to each other like, okay, who is this? Do you guys know? But New Zealand is calling Canada like, what's going on? Diagolon? You're splitting the fucking country? You got veterans going to war with two countries at the same time? What? Sean's reference to Diagolon as this group indicates some level of unfamiliarity. Still, New Zealand police wanted intel for their files. So let's give them what they need. A couple minutes after that, trying to skip ahead here because it goes point by point. Again, it's good if you're interested in this, but I'm trying to keep it easy breezy and loosey-goosey. Here we go. Let this sink in. Khan's fabrications about Diagolon, parroted by a gullible Canadian press, then get picked up by international intelligence agencies who demanded access to the intel files. Trouble was, there was nothing the RCMP could provide other than perhaps a vague association chart. Inspector Simon Pillet's statements make it clear that Jeremy Mackenzie's information ended up circulated to international police agencies because of mainstream media attention and not because police had classified Diagolon as a right-wing militia. Police took their cues from the media who cited Khan. So, just again, maybe it sounds like I'm hammering the point too much here, but this is a map of how you change the zeitgeist in a sense. Like all it took was a couple of individuals and their networks to introduce this fucking idea, and it percolated all the way up to the highest intelligence agencies, not only in the land, but in the Western fucking world. Right? Like this isn't just like, some of the RCMP is talking about. It's like, no, the fucking CIA is listening to this now. The fucking CIA is like, is Diagolon something you have to care about? Because of this fucking Bernie Farber piece of shit who's got an axe to grind because he doesn't like white guys hanging out together. Mm-hmm. Remember, like, what are Bernie Farber's objections to Diagolon? Because it's not, if he had real objections, if he had real concerns, he wouldn't need to make stuff up, right? He wouldn't need to gerrymander this whole fucking narrative. So what really triggered him about Diagolon? Well, it's a bunch of men who would romantically call themselves old stock Canadians. That's the one thing you're not supposed to call yourself in Canada. Old stock Canadians. That's what conservatives would call each other, themselves and each other, because they didn't want to just say Europeans. They didn't want to be like the, Ricardo Duchesne, who, would call themselves Euro-Canadians, even though that is more accurate. And even that's vague enough that should make everybody happy, right? No, old stock Canadian just means like, yeah, we're white guys who can trace our lineage back here like 5, 7, 12 generations, right? Just like you, you can do that. Like, what the fuck else do you call that?
It's old stock. Yeah, that's all it is.
That is why he's targeting you. And again, any conversation that doesn't include that as the starting point is not a genuine conversation. Also, I don't have access to the Odyssey. I'm not looking at it right now. I got all this going on. Can you be sure just to check the Odyssey chat and everything?
Yeah.
Just like make sure.
We're good.
Let's check in. Anything you spot that looks good in there? I can't see. It right
McNabb, BTO, my dialogue. Still can't believe Antifa Twitter accounts were used as evidence to write the official report. Yeah, I fucking know, right? And holy 55K to sit in a Telegram chat. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I'm getting. I think the YouTube might have gone down. Let me just check.
What's up for me?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure. I think it was because when someone said like RIP, YouTube or something.
Oh, that's a ways back up when we were having some issues at the beginning.
It says James O's there says Judas read my comment. All right, actually, maybe I should turn the chat back on here.
Said Jimmy,
Yeah.
how you doing? Jimmy's in the chat.
We love him. We love our Jimmy. Oh, someone made a good point earlier. Only 700 powerful women on this planet. See, I'm looking at the screen like on now. It says new comments will display here. It's not showing them on the screen. That's what I was talking about before on the YouTube.
That's powerfully gay.
I know. So you were lying. You were. Oh wait, there. Wait, maybe it's gonna be popping up there in a second.
Oh, I'm just reading them in the chat on YouTube. I have YouTube open, so I can see them there.
You fucked everything. Okay, well now it's popping up. I think.
Now we just got Jimmy doing his nails as the only thing on screen. Great.
Yeah.
Fucking great.
You know what? Fine. You know what? Everything's fucking fine. But let me just scroll down here. The PDF is kind of getting glitchy for me for some reason. Going point by point here. The next morning, don't need to hear the line by line. Okay. I'm just going to go to the summary here, and then, you can read the dialogue tree up there if you need to. But in short, this is a chain of events that shows in real time how Canadian media's hype about an imaginary nation posing an imaginary threat ended up disseminated across the globe. And when international intelligence agencies came knocking for the intel they assumed was in the RCMP's possession, the RCMP acquiesced and produced a report based on open source material they gleaned, in essence, from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, with sycophants in the Canadian media and their proxy. And there's one thing here that's kind of interesting. I read this earlier. I'll summarize it. They had like a 15-minute strategy meeting. This is something that happens at the highest levels of intelligence, where it's like, we need to know something now. Take 15 minutes and get us all the data you could find. So you might think that there's not Agent Scullys and Agent Mulders out there who are literally just going on Twitter and searching for like, okay, what's Diagon? Let me look at that. Taking that, putting it in an unformatted, I assume, Word document and saying, here's what we got. Like they're just sourcing blogs. They're just sourcing Twitter. And, for people who are curious as to why, Antifa and all these other leftist orgs, they still really care about Twitter. It's because these fucking morons are still really into Twitter as well. Like you gotta think about what boomers understand. Boomers don't really understand Telegram yet, but they get Facebook and they get Twitter and stuff. So if you want to matter to the people who are writing the laws, you got to be on these fucking places. And so when they search there to try and save their job to understand something, you will have your content there. That's why owning the narrative is so frustratingly important on these stupid fucking platforms. Keeps fucking glitching. Okay. An email thread dated February 4th, 2022, titled Urgent, What We Need, culminates in the RCMP compiling a key briefing for top officials in only 15 minutes. This is actually what I was just talking about. The report, Short turnaround projects are not uncommon in fast-paced, high-stakes work environments. What makes this insidious is the incomplete analysis. Diagolon is described as a meme-based and satirical movement. Furthermore, it is said that Diagolon adherents expressed desires to form a country based on right-leaning Canadian provinces and U.S. states. A high-level official reading of this assessment might easily conclude that a real threat to territorial sovereignty exists and should be taken seriously because Diagolon operates under the guise of humor to conceal its real intentions. But you know what? Like, I just want to pause there, and maybe let's just set up camp here because I'm curious. Like, if that is the same, like, if you wanted to form an alliance between right-leaning provinces or right-leaning states, is that illegal? Is that even like what is that?
Yeah, that's not anything. I mean,
Right?
I get if you want to give her the benefit of the doubt, it's like, oh, well, they're gonna have like form a breakaway revolutionary nation from those provinces and states. But like, if you're just talking about the cooperation, like I think what was that thing we read about that recently, that like because of the federal system, that most Canadian provinces have stronger trade and diplomatic ties with the adjacent American states than they do with each other. Like this is normal. Like Saskatchewan has a better relationship with Minnesota than it has with Ontario, and Ontario has a better relationship with New York than it has with New Brunswick. Like this is just, this has actually been this way since our country has existed. So
Can I also just state for the folks at home who might not know, there is another group in this country that wants to start a breakaway province.
Mhm.
It's called Quebec. Like, why is the Bloc Québécois allowed to exist if this is such an egregious terroristic threat?
well, I mean, look, it's not like the Quebecers have ever formed like a violent revolutionary militia and tried to assassinate the prime. Oh no, they did do that. Oh shit. Yeah.
They have a party which their sole purpose
Is
to the party is
to kill the prime minister.
and they keep getting close.
Yeah. The only reason we have a French-speaking prime minister right now is to keep them at bay.
The great thing about the FLQ, which is the Quebec separatist terrorist group that we're referring to, is that it happened so far in the past where if a Quebecois nationalist actually did assassinate the president, sufficient time has passed where they could say, like, well, it's part of their culture.
We have to be sensitive.
You can't be mad at them.
Yeah.
It's in their blood, right? Let's see. Well done, Ashley.
I saw that too. Hey, well done, Ashley.
I didn't get to read this one fully, but it's another scandal. Okay, this is interesting. So I might have to end this soon, but this is the Mendicinos. How do you? Okay, I'm going to let you pronounce it for Mendicino. Yeah. I'm going to let you do this from now. The names.
Nice.
Yeah. Among the most egregious examples of overreach that we've uncovered and the FOIPOP packages, the shocking incident described in an email thread dated February 16th, 2022 stands out, both for the gravity of what transpired and the heedless way in which a man's reputation was judged expendable. Let's see. Here's an email. We just received another request for the remarks made by Mendicino re far extremism. I don't want to go through every fucking email though. Give me a summary. Okay, so the Global News article relies heavily on quotes from anti-hate expert and Con deputy director Elizabeth Simons, whose credentials cannot be verified. All we can say about Simons is that she is likely a female going by The Voice. Well, as we've seen with the voice mod technology, you can never be sure.
Yeah, she might be Barack Obama. We'll never know.
We thought we were speaking to President Barack Obama. Global News article relies heavily on who they believe was Barack Hussein Obama, who repeatedly brought up cock and ball torture.
Repeatedly interrupted by Meroons Dagon, who we haven't met.
Mr. President, what is Sneed? What do you mean by Sneed? Is it? Where is Chuck? Pretending to be Barack Obama and doing Sneed's feed and seed jokes to the government would be. I mean, I'd die doing that.
It'd be worth it.
But this is interesting. So, like, we're not able to find any records of her appearing in person on camera. They're basically claiming that Elizabeth Simon's character could be invented by these, again, like two guys. We cannot verify that the moniker isn't shared by multiple individuals at Con, given Kurt Phillips's predilection to adopt both male and female personas while cyber sleuthing. Is it really outside the realm of possibility that several Con employees are running Elizabeth Simons or as another Anya? A disposable NPC-like character to be scrapped at the first whiff of a defamation lawsuit. I would love it if that was the case.
You're so cool.
I would love it if this guy was just like so into pretending to be women and he just couldn't fucking stop, like for no reason. You could just be you.
Yeah.
You fucking guy. Jeremy McKenzie, public boogeyman number one, is in the process of having his life destroyed by a repeated reprehensible association to four men on the other side of the country, only one of whom he'd met in a group setting and only twice. All because a patch that replicated his imaginary nation's make-believe flag, but wasn't manufactured or sold by him, had been struck on body armor along with other patches indicating affiliations to other groups. So this was the story that there was a kind of spree shooter that had a Diagolon patch on his attire during it. And of course, none of the other patches got media attention. Sure. Or even if he, this is kind of a dumb claim. I don't even know if I want to own this one, but I'm like, even if he was part of Diagolon, who gives a shit? Like, you can be a crazy person and part of any political affiliation. I know that's like a lame argument, but that is just the one that occurs to my mind reading this.
Yeah, fair.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, it doesn't have to be fresh for it to be true.
Yeah. I like that. Forced to scramble and invent a story to cover for Mendocino's recklessness, a team of stressed RCMP staff Googled news media articles to, quote, write back to news media. In order to cover for their own lack of knowledge in the matter. By doing so, they circulated a version of reality that might have been amplified by other journalists who continued this infernal game of broken telephone. A game of broken telephone that goes all the way back to 2008 to the shady tactics of an anonymous account created by an untrained, lonely, middle-aged school teacher in a small Alberta town who spent nearly all his time online cosplaying as an armchair Nazi hunter. A bit of editorializing, but I do appreciate it.
It is beautiful. I could almost forgive her.
For Marco Mendocino, for Kurt Phillips, for Bernie Farber, and for the sake of saving their own face, the RCMP offered up Jeremy, a decorated combat veteran with no criminal record and no history of terrorist behavior, as a sacrificial lamb. In a world where the weight of truth depends on the perceived worth of those who speak it, this is a tragic testament to how the lives of those most powerless and unconnected can be destroyed on a dime. The Foy Pop documents heavily suggest that the RCMP intelligence takes their cues from the press, relying on secondhand information rather than presenting as the originating source of information distributed to the press. One wonders how much of their intel simply consists of scouring daily news and disseminating it through their regular media scan emails. Because once you actually see these emails and once you see how they fucking talk to each other, like look at these fucking emails from the Freedom of Information Act request. Like, hi guys, thank you. Hey, what's going on? We need this now. This is urgent. This is deadline ASAP. Every deadline is ASAP.
Yeah.
We just received another case. Can you get this to me right now? I don't know what's going on. Can someone tell me what's going on? Like, if you've ever been in an office setting, they're all the fucking same. Your boss is always the least prepared. The emails are written by fucking retards. I promise you. Anyway, so come on, stop freezing on me. This is what happens when you're on a site that doesn't exist anymore. Scroll down here. Now we get into a bit more editorializing, but I think it's fair to say media sources should never be considered standalone, reliable, open sources by intelligence services. What viewers get is not the absolute truth, but information that may or may not be accurate, which has been filtered through an editorial lens. And interestingly enough, like I'm gonna go off in the weeds on this, but it seems that though individuals who openly describe their editorial lens as being Jewish, that's not seen as a bug, that's seen as a feature. Like for me, if I were hunting for Nazis, the last people I would want involved in that would be Jews.
Right.
Right? Like it would stand to reason that, oh man, you know, the people who have the most emotional axe to grind, they shouldn't be involved in this at all.
Like if you're doing police work, right, and you're looking for like a dead raped child, and you're going door to door and asking people if they've seen the child, do you bring the child's distraught father carrying an axe with you?
Yeah.
No. Like you might be rooting for the dad, but that isn't going to help you find the kid, right? That's just, this is retarded.
Yeah. Let's just keep going here. A lot of this is about Hadigan's like life story and her various lawsuits with these individuals. It sounds like maybe it could have been shorter if we left a lot of that stuff out. I don't know. It adds color, but I'm not sure it adds a lot of the detail we need. You know, let's see here. Here we go. The fickleness of the industry's changing taste often mirrors the contemporary administration's spin. The events of September 11, 2001 shifted the attention of media and law enforcement almost overnight, from the white nationalism to a tenacious focus on brown terrorism. The focus lasted nearly 2 decades before Charlottesville turned the spotlight back on far-right extremism. Had neo-Nazis suddenly vanished on September 12th? Of course not, but the instant pivot shows how selective reporting can generate a public's buy-in and manufacture consent for atrocities faster than you can spell Noam Chomsky.
Gay.
I'm not a fan of Noam Chomsky, but yeah.
Such a loser. I've listened to so many of his interviews on things that have nothing to do with linguistics. I just wish he would die. Like he's old, right? You know, he's very old. So I just wish he would, you know, have a heart attack and we don't have to listen to him anymore. I'm just sick of it.
Yeah, he really is hanging around, isn't he?
Dude, man, he's decrepit. He's worse than Soros at this point.
I'm trying to pull up an image of Noam Chomsky right now. There's very few images of him not looking 150 years old.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you see an old guy, you think, okay, this is the worst version of his appearance. But you try to imagine the young version of him. When he got there, like there must have been like a cool young Chomsky. He looks like he started 50 years old.
Yeah, yeah. He looked like a really weird, like, chin cell in like the 70s.
And also, let me just say this. Hold on. Okay, let's get to the good stuff here. Taking a break for just a minute. We're looking at Noam Chomsky here. He, as you can see, he started growing a beard too late in life. This is not the age you want to start growing a beard. You need to start growing
up to that.
You got to be in your, I'd say start in your 40s. If you start growing a beard when you're really old, it's gonna get real weird. Because he's getting real Santa Claus about it. There's some photo I'm looking for right now where he's looking like dog shit. Look at it. Oh, look at this. Hater. What do you think about that? Noam Chomsky got god dang hater written in his forehead. Give me, okay, let's do this. Noam Chomsky beard. Yeah, just a fucking stone cold atrocity.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if I were this guy, I wouldn't be outside. Right?
It's not a good look.
It's bad. Who's this guy? This guy's on Noam Chomsky. Who else? Okay, we're done with the Noam. I had to take a little detour into Noam Chomsky territory.
Yeah. The
Let's
G is
see.
silent, by the way.
Wait, I'm looking at too many things. Explain that joke for the autists and myself.
His name's Noam Chomsky.
No, oh no.
Amazing. That's it. That's all there is.
Why haven't I heard that before? Noam Chomsky.
Fuck you, Judas.
It's very late. It's already at over 2 hours. I got to wrap this up. I hope people have found this interesting. I found this fascinating. I think like getting a 360 view of this group, how they function, and also seeing how the apparatus works when dealing with them. Like it is as lazy and as clumsy as you think.
Yeah.
It is just like frantic people. Like I gotta go to a meeting. I gotta say something about Diagolon. What do I say? Twitter. Like here's a guy. He sounds official. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network. That's got to be something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I bet there's no question in my mind. There is like a frantic woman who says, "Con, that's something. That's got to be something, right? Is that a thing?" I bet that has been said in a office setting.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest, from here, it's more of just an editorialized summary about Canada, the courage to have second thoughts, about like to me from here, you can read this at your discretion. It's interesting, it's well written.
You should post the PDF in the chat because nobody can get it now that the site is down.
Yeah, We're gonna do that on our Telegram channel. I'll post it there. I'll see if I can add it on Twitter. I'll add it on Twitter. And maybe this will resolve itself and the site will go back up and this won't be an issue. But let me just scan here. Ooh, an unholy alliance. Now it's getting into Darvos. That's getting to psychoanalysis. So in a virtual, okay, now it's about Twitter. Okay, sorry, I didn't read this part. I'm just trying to scan to see if there's anything here. Judas, tell us a joke while I'm scanning this.
Oh boy, I don't know any jokes that are YouTube stream safe. I think. Bob, you got any good jokes? Do you know any jokes?
I've been reading. There's a guy named Felix Fairmont on Telegram who's been posting like Gilbert Gottfried jokes.
Yes.
I
saw that.
I've got 3 that I can't say. I just want you to know that I got them.
So there's a liberal guy downtown with his girlfriend, and usually he likes to meet blacks. He's friendly with blacks, but he's waiting for the bus, and this angry fella comes up and he stabs him. And his girlfriend, as he's dying in the street, his girlfriend says, "Why didn't you run away?" And he just says, "I didn't see the point."
Nice. I like it.
Did I get it? Yeah.
Yeah, you were close. You actually that voice. You have the soul.
Yeah.
The soul is the most important part.
I probably woke my kids up.
The soul is the most important part. And as you know, the soul resides in the balls.
In the balls.
Let's see. We have 5th episode. And this all comes back to the convoy. Like, once again, I want to circle this back to why we're talking about this, that this one small group is the one leading the charge against all of the freedom convoys, all the ongoing Diagolon associated and affiliated groups. Like, it's still just them. And what HateGate shows the world, and I would take, if you don't want to show them this specific stream, I hear you. We play fast and loose with being fast and loose. So, but at least share this PDF because it shows that this is just built on quicksand. It's silly. It's made up. It's not fucking serious. Your oppressors are 2 guys in a room that aren't used to being bullied online. These people are cowards. They are inept. If you've dealt with them in any capacity, you'll see they don't know what they're talking about. They are sending panicked emails. CSIS is a fucking joke, and it pains me to say that. Part as a Canadian patriot, maybe I'd want the government to not be fucking retarded, but that presents some opportunities for people who want to say the things we want to say. In a ostensibly free society. But my view is that CSIS within the Five Eyes community is seen as a bit of a liability. And for those who want a bit more insight on that, we did a couple episodes about the Communist Party of China's infiltration into the Canadian state apparatus. And in my view, I think Canada is seen as a bit of a joke between like the New Zealand, Australia, American affiliation. Like it just seems to always be caught with its pants down. It always seems to be infiltrated. It always seems to be just so fucking inept. You know what I mean? Like, and that, like, if this is true, it's like, wow. So this entire thing that the CIA is now aware of was ginned up by these two fucking morons sitting in a room.
Yep.
That's it? Wow. Now, with that in mind, what are the next steps? What can you do that? How can you take on Khan in a legal way, in a moral way? I'm sure you can come up with a few ideas, but once you like, as we saw at the beginning of when we looked at the individuals who are associated with this, they're sex pests. They're spoiled fucking rich kids. They're like the guy Bernie Farber. Let me pull him up for a second. Yeah, Bernie Farber. I was looking at his Wikipedia today here. Hold up. So Bernie Farber, Canadian writer, commentator, and the former chief executive officer of the Canadian Jewish Congress and a social activist. Like, if you look through this guy's life, he's never had a real fucking job. Not really. He's a fucking nobody. This guy is a fucking loser. He's been a loser his whole life. He's just hopped from nonprofit to nonprofit. These are easy bird jobs. He just knows people. And I bet the people who know him don't particularly like him. Because if he was liked, he would probably be somewhere with more significance. He wouldn't be running this rinky-dink operation, being on fucking webcam on Canadian news.
He's also
Canadian news.
He's also retired from a much more prominent, like, political role. So it's almost like he's been shuffled off a little bit. I bet he's totally unlikable in person.
Yeah. Oh, Canadian Jewish Congress. Employed by the Canadian Jewish Congress from 1984 until 2011. He was appointed Chief Executive Officer in 2005 and had previously been bullshit. Mr. Farber advocates for the abolition of all public recognition accorded to Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald. He believes that Macdonald's legacy is one of cruelty, barbarism, and even genocide. So it seems like he would have advocated for that in his capacity at the Canadian Jewish Congress. Why does the Canadian Jewish Congress have an opinion on Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, who is a good and righteous fucking figure?
So this is the point where Canadian patriots have to decide: will it be barbarism or will it be Farberism?
And just to, I really want to circle back to this, the alleged heritage front plot. One member had allegedly planned an attack on the CJC offices to take some people out, with Farber believed to be the primary target. Ooh, the Heritage Front is going after Farber. Over the preceding years, Heritage Front had been infiltrated by and become largely directed by Grant Bristow, an undercover agent of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. So he was fucking running the entire show. Like this is the knot that they tied, which and he is still going to claim that I was targeted for being a prominent Jew by what, like the government? Because I'll tell you, one group that's never targeted you is white fucking supremacists. You've only been targeted by CSIS, apparently.
Yeah. Who pulled your name out of a hat because they were scrambling in a 15-minute scrum at the office, be like, if we're a white supremacist group, who do we? I know, the Jewish Contra. Who's the CEO? Oh, it's Bernie. Let's go after Bernie. Like that's all this was.
Can I get one more here? Just one more, like it's just a real chef's kiss to lead this off. We'll gallop into the sunset on this, maybe. I'm just gonna read it as is. Farber, who is not gay, was mocked by columnists.
Oh, chilling denial.
Farber, who is not gay, was mocked by this columnist in 2009 for wearing a "Nobody Knows I'm Gay" T-shirt, sold as a fundraiser by a Jewish LGBT group while marching in Toronto's Pride Parade as a protest against the inclusion of some queers against Israeli apartheid in the march. Wait, okay, so he was marching as a protest against the inclusion of this one group that was against Israelis. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. He's only there to protest some Israeli shit.
He
Okay,
loves
that
apartheid so much that he would be gay. He literally he would don the gay cowl just to beat Palestinian children. That's Bernie for you.
he wasn't even there in a gay capacity. He was only there in a Jewish capacity, and I guess this is what I'm trying to get at. I'm reaching for any word other than shapeshifter moment.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like he's there pretending to be gay.
Because did people there seeing him know that he was not gay? Or did
Until he
they
told
think,
them,
oh look, another gay man? Until after the fact, when it was all over.
Until he
He's
wore
like, no, I was there in a Jewish capacity, not in a gay capacity.
But keep in mind, he was wearing a "Nobody Knows I'm Gay" T-shirt.
Right. No, that's my point.
Yeah.
You didn't have to put the shirt on. Like, there's not a rule that you have to wear the shirt.
Exactly. But he once again had to adopt the visage of a member of a different community to to further his Zionist interests. Like, look, again, all I'm doing, maybe get kicked off YouTube for saying this. I'm literally just reading Wikipedia, and it seems that oftentimes in our sectors we get in trouble for reciting things Jews have said or describing things they have done.
Yeah.
I didn't fucking write this shit.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. All right, so that pretty much covers HateGate, and maybe we dwelled a bit too much on certain aspects, but I think we did a pretty good job there.
Yeah, it's all right. That was fun.
All right, let's have a look at the chat. Anything else that we kind of missed here?
You have to introduce all your guests from now on as welcome, Mr. X, who is not gay.
Yes, thank you, James O, for that idea.
Welcome back, a good friend of the show, James Burden. We've had him on a good. James is not gay. It's great to have him back. Not a gay man.
I have to do it in like a Norman Doll voice. James, who is not gay. who would even bring that up? I'm trying to nail down the depressed, gravelly Norm Macdonald voice. You know, because he kind of talked like this, when he was being serious.
Late.
Or like not at the end, but like there was times when he might have been on pills, because that's when he was on pills, but he was he kind of talked like this, gravelly when he wants to get like poetic.
Yeah.
All right, and I apologize. In the future, one thing that we're gonna do is try and schedule these so that the great glut of our European listeners can actually tune in, because this would be around, I think, 4 a.m. their time.
What do you even do,
right?
though? Like,
we have to do this at noon, I guess.
Then we can't get our guys in Canada and in North America. What are they going to do it while they're at work?
Someone's got to sacrifice to listen to this podcast. It's going to be something weird. Like we have to do it at like 2:15, something like that. Jeez. Oh, and before we go, I wanted to give a special shout out to the Kino Casino, specifically PPP, who prior to recording this had me laughing for between 4 to 8 minutes with the phrase, "Shiver me fucking timbers." That's an ice cold take.
The greatest Canadian podcast.
Greatest Canadian podcast. All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up here. We're over 2 hours and 15 minutes. Do you have anything to perhaps end on?
No, I guess "shiver me timbers." That's an ice cold take. Is all I have to say, I guess.
All right, sounds good. All right, everyone, thank you for taking the time. If I didn't get to your Odyssey comment, that's because that's Judas's purview, and
well, Jesus
no
Christ,
one's looking.
Darby sent $10. Thank you, Darby. The donos, $10 from Darby. And I
Let's
cannot believe it. A few
go.
seconds ago, a message came from the one, the only, Maori Mela, the Finn, the prodigal Finn is in the chat. He says, nobody cares about Europours.
Thank you very much from Maori for being here. I actually hope we are on Rumble right now. Are we? Maybe we're not.
They're all isolated.
Fuck,
We are.
we're supposed to be. I actually don't think this has been going on Rumble. It says it's offline. It's supposed to be streaming there right now. Fuck. Anyway, so we're not on Rumble right now. We'll get them next time.
Yep.
All right. Thank you everyone for taking the time, and I'll see you soon.